fans are very sensitive when it comes to these refereeing decisions.
Yeah,
Wait, but then
and
now
the stats are there off the back of Michael Oliver as well. When he is in charge of you, there is quite clearly something that affects his decision making in those games. I don't know what it is. I don't know whether it's biasness. I don't know whether it's the atmosphere. What it is, I'm not sure. But factually, he has never sent off a Manchester City player. He's been involved in a number of Arsenal Manchester City games. Has not awarded big decisions against Manchester City. Handballs,
Is he
fouls.
refereeing
Kovacic against Odegaard last season could have easily been red card.
The Doku kick in the chest from McAllister.
Like there is a number of decisions, right? And when you've got people like Jamie O'Hara going on TalkSport calling that out as a Spurs fan, then you know something is happening. And we've seen it already with David Coote. We've seen it with obviously Anthony Taylor, but with Chelsea, there's obviously a huge issue there. There's no denying that referees and certain teams, the decisions start to raise eyebrows. There's no denying it whatsoever. But then when you go a little bit deeper and you find out that Oliver's been employed by the owners of Manchester City and in Qatari football, whatever, it starts to just look a little bit like I don't know.
It's not only Arsenal. You guys get biased refereeing from what's it called, Anthony Taylor. You do.
We do 100%.
You do see a higher level of things. I think Mike Dean used to give Spurs the most sending offs, if I'm not mistaken. We used to see him give them a lot of sending offs. But hey, Manchester United probably have had referees that they felt like were against them also.
Wait, so Igal, so if you guys don't win anything this season, then like would that kind of be like the talking point then is like we didn't win because of the refs, or would you still kind of be okay with people saying that it's Arteta, it's just not good enough?
No, I think injuries would also be a massive factor.
Yeah.
I think injuries would. I don't think people realize. People talk about Tottenham having a massive injury crisis. We've actually had more players miss games than Tottenham have. Tottenham just have had their center.
Players,
Tottenham
you
haven't
lost your back four and your goalkeeper.
They lost Saliba for a bit, Henry. They've lost Odegaard.
Yeah, but we're playing 18-year-old midfielders at centre back.
1 second. I understand you're playing 18-year-olds, but it's just because we have better squad depth.
That's the difference in squad depth, though. Whereas Arsenal have players in terms of squad depth that are not.
How many big injuries have you had? You had Saka, Odegaard,
Saliba,
Calafiori. It's only 2 games though, wasn't it?
I literally don't know it off the top of my head. I need to remember by checking.
Ben White for a huge period of time.
Just to go over it quickly. If I'm not mistaken, this season, first of all, write off some of our defenders. Like just name all our defenders. They've all missed games except for 2 players. Everyone in our defense has missed games due to injuries and suspensions alone. The whole attack has all missed games. Martinelli and Trossard are only players who've been fit the whole season. So every single player has missed games.
You probably had a similar amount, but we've had, not to compare, saying we've won the injury battle, but a lot of our injuries have been, like Van der Ven's been out for 3 months now. Romero's been out for 3 months. Vicario out for 4 months. Like, any team's going to have a massive drop-off when you lose two your main centre-backs and a goalkeeper. That's not excusing Ange Postecoglou. But when you've had a lot of these injuries, you've done well. Like, Ranieri stepped up for you. We don't have anyone.
I think you've got blitzed, Henry, right? You lost so many at once.
But no, Henry, no disrespect, but what we're going for and what you're going for is 2 completely different things.
Yeah, of course.
We're trying to go for the league with one of our best creators out, one of the best players in the league in Saka missing games, Saliba missing games here and there due to suspensions and injuries, Declan Rice missing games. You have the whole back line. We've had 4 more back line combinations than we did all of last season. On top of that, we've had numerous players that are key in our team drop out due to crucial injuries, like Jesus, like Bukayo Saka, like Martin Odegaard. I said his name already, but you know what I mean, man. It's just been.
But what Arteta's doing well, Gal, is that when you've got those injuries, he's adapting and he's showing that you have to play in a different way. I think you can go look at Bournemouth and Iriola, and he goes down to 13 and he adapts and he's pragmatic about it. Ange isn't changing when his squad is being ripped apart and decimated by injuries, and that is costing him points in the league because he's still trying to play the same way with different personnel.
I don't even want to compare it to Ange right now. I'm just looking at our recruitment, and I'm saying to myself, we don't seem to be taking this opportunity that we have serious. I'm just going to speak about Arsenal here, not Tottenham. Arsenal have an opportunity where the last 2 years we were so close to winning the league. We have to strike when the iron's hot. And if we do not take it serious, it could be a situation where this passes us by, and this moment of us continuing to push on to win the league, there's no guarantee it's going to be there next season or the year after that or the year after that. Now, I'm not saying it's all doom and gloom and next year will fall off, but there is no guarantee that you are going to continuously have all your players available to compete at this level. Man City have dropped off this season. It's literally us and Liverpool. Arsenal have an opportunity this window to improve the team, to get us over the line. They don't seem to be doing that. And if we go into the summer and we don't kick on again, we could just be back in the same situation next season where we're just challenging for the league again and we're not looking like we're getting any better. And that's why I'm frustrated. Forget about the injuries. Forget about the red cards for a second. I just don't see the urgency from the top. And I see it.
What, to make a signing ago? Is that what you mean?
Yeah. Because
do you not feel that the iron was more hot at this point last season and the summer than it is now? Because you've got like Saka out for a good amount of time. You've had a number of injuries this season. All right, points wise, you're still there or thereabouts. But I feel like the iron was hotter at this point last year and in the summer.
Bro, 2 years ago, we made a bigger we tried more by getting Trossard and Jorginho.
That's what I mean, right? And I think last January and the summer was your opportunity to strike and go and get maybe Isak.
The summer was a failure, to be honest.
I agree with you. And I think this summer, had you signed a striker, had you gone and got Ollie Watkins in the summer, I think now you might be in a position where you're not talking about chasing Liverpool. You're in a position where you're competing with Liverpool.
No, but I think the issue was trusting and giving Jesus another season. Trusting in Havertz being leading the line.
Do you know what's really interesting about the Arsenal conversation? Just very quickly, I wanted to say about the excuses. Refereeing decisions are part of an issue, but there should be no Arsenal fan that ignores the club not buying players, a bad managerial situation, or a player not having a good time. I think there's too much of this in content creating now where I think there's a lot of lies being said as well, because you'll see an Arsenal fan that will complain about the refs, and they get like, that's all you care about. You don't call your we have people this weekend. No one who comes on the terrace calls out anything that Arsenal do wrong. Like, well, you clearly don't watch our content because our panelists do multiple things. I think that's important. But at the same time, look, this summer, I understood why people said they needed another goal scorer. I honestly thought that Trossard would be better and more consistent this season. And I thought Martinelli would get back to what we saw 2 years ago from him as football fans. So I didn't see it as pressing an issue as other people did. And that's just the nature of football. It's turned out to be a bigger pressing matter than I thought it was. Some people got that one absolutely right. We spend too much time, though, nowadays. Oh, what did you get right? What did you get right? Oh, I got this right. I told you. Yeah, 2 seasons ago, when people like me were predicting they could get into a title race, no chance, squad ain't good enough, and they did. And again, great, I got that one right. So what? It's the way it is. And I think Arsenal, you are right. Now, with hindsight looking back, they absolutely should have bought different players in the summer, or the players they bought plus people on top. I think why now's important, though, is the season isn't over. They're in the Champions League. I think it's quite an open Champions League campaign with 2 teams that would have been put up as the number 1 and 2 favorites. One of them going out in this playoff round because they've got each other. And one of Madrid or City are going out, and neither have been that good this year. So I think it opens up the opportunity for everybody that's in it. And for Arsenal this January to not add a striker, to not add an attacker with the injuries, I think is very disrespectful to the manager, disrespectful to the players. And more so, I think it isn't fair on the fans. So I feel like there's an even bigger pressing matter this January than there was last year, because you've lost Saka, they've lost Gabriel Jesus, and there are players available. There are players that you can go and buy this January. I don't think it's as hard as some people are making out. It's difficult, but you pay the money.
But Terry, look at all the money that they've given Arteta, and look what he chooses to use it on. Like, that's his fault.
Well, then that's their fault for letting Arteta make those. Managers should not be given.
Even when you say that,
hang on.
What do you mean? You're wrong. Because
What do you mean? So, but Will, even if you're right, let's just say Will's right for a minute, and then I'll let you go. Right? Let's say you're right. Just because he's bought bad players in the past doesn't mean they shouldn't go out and buy better players now.
No, I'm not saying bad players. I'm just saying, right? Like Arteta hasn't necessarily prioritized the attack, right? Like he prioritizes the back line and the midfield more. So what I'm saying is, so like all the things that you guys are saying right now, it's an Arteta issue because he's the one that's neglected the attack since he's been here.
Okay, so then
That's wrong.
Let me come back.
Bro.
I'll come back to you in a second. Let's just say you're right though, and he has neglected it. Why does that negate my argument that Arsenal should have bought an attacker this January?
Because they probably don't trust him because he already spent 60-something million on
Kai
Havertz.
So
he spent 40-something million on Jesus.
Then Will, you've highlighted the big problem.
Okay.
No, if what you're saying is true, and Gal's going to say it isn't true in a minute, and that's fine, but I want to stay on what you've said as a point rather than saying it's wrong. If they're giving a manager in 2024, 2025, this season, control over transfers, it ain't the 80s or the 90s. That's their big mistake. That's not Arteta's fault. They shouldn't be giving him that power. Managers in the modern day era are notoriously bad at signing players. There's a reason that when Klopp was signing his own players, they weren't buying players that were as good or they were being misused within the squad, as great as he is. Pep doesn't do any of the recruitment at Man City, and he's a great head coach. They have a team that does it. They provide him a list. He might get a say, but they provide it. If it's true what you're saying, that Arsenal's board are letting him decide who to pick in terms of they're not giving him a list saying it's got to be one of those 3 attackers. It's him saying it's got to be this guy. That's their big mistake. And until they change that, they'll foul because I don't think the modern day coach is trained to spot and identify players, how scouts are, how managers were 20, 30, 40 years ago. I think football's evolved. So if you're right, it's a bigger problem for Arsenal than Mikel Arteta. It means they've given him too much power, and that's an issue. For me, anyway.
Yeah. So again, I just don't think that his talent ID is that good. Like, I don't believe that Arsenal wanted to go to Chelsea and sign Kai Havertz badly to where they spend 60 million plus euros on him, right? Gabriel Jesus from Manchester City, the guy couldn't even get in at striker even after Aguero left. They switched up their whole system. And then you go to them and then you spend 40-something million for him. So I just don't think.
Yeah, but look where Arsenal were at that point, Will. Like, Arsenal were at a point where that felt like
it's
a good
wasted
signing
money. Like, it's wasted money.
But is it wasted? Because
Jesus and
Zinchenko, right, were huge parts of Arsenal making the jump from where they were, transitioning to where they are now. Now, they've probably outgrown those 2 players quicker than they ever expected. So in terms of how much use they got out of them, it probably doesn't look like it was great value for money. But they got what they needed out of those players. All right, Jesus, they probably expected a little bit more, but injuries have kind of plagued his spell there. But in terms of Zinchenko, they jumped and left him pretty quickly. I don't know how much power Arteta has. I think he has a lot, but don't forget about Edu and the sporting director in this situation as well.
Yeah, I think that's the thing for me is I understand all the claims. And for me, if we're talking about this, what's the solution? The solution for Arsenal is not stop spending. It's spend. If you buy bad players, let's just put that out, or players aren't good enough, the only solution to fix that, and I know people say, coach, what's in your squad? No one does that. No big team has ever had a squad with 3 or 4 average players in that you need to improve on and just gone, we're going to coach these players until they're as good as Haaland. We're going to coach them until they're as good as Mo Salah. No one does it. There's a comment here that says, Terry, behave. Klopp signings have us at the top of the league table. Yes. Now that there has been subtle changes to the way you play and the control added by Slot, and Gravenberch's being used in a different way this year. So again, I'm not saying Klopp doesn't. Most players at the top end of the game are very good football players. That is why they're there. I'm saying Klopp, when it comes to identifying players, yes, they're talented, but he was using them in the wrong way. You've got to remember, he didn't want Mane and Salah. He wanted Julian Brand and somebody else. Might have been Mario Götze. That's who Klopp wanted over those 2. The point I'm saying is, and again, everyone always takes it fucking personally. It's frustrating. 99% of all top-level coaches in the modern-day game do not pick the players, per se. In Europe, they haven't done for a long time. The club president or the sporting directors have done it for generations. Typically speaking, that's how they operate. I don't understand, and I know you all can find exceptions where it doesn't happen, because I know they exist, but I don't understand why fans of English football are still pushing back against this. It's the way it is. So yes, if you give a modern day young coach full control over transfers, it's his way or the highway, you are setting yourself up for failure because they're not trained to manage football clubs the way they used to be. They're just really not. It's just crazy that people still
I'm
think
just going to say this to Brand, not to Will. Will, it's not about talent ID. We just can't pull every single player we want. That's the honest truth. Be it due to financial, be it due to that player wanting to go somewhere else, or be it due to the situation we find ourselves in, or just not being able to pull the trigger on a deal because we don't see the value in that deal at that moment in time. Let me give you some examples. Isaac. We wanted Isaac. We didn't deem the value of his deal in 22 summer. The same thing happened with Bruno Guimaraes the year we were challenging for top 4. Rafinha, he did not want to go to us. He wanted to go to Barcelona over us. Fair play. Vlahovic wanted to go to Juventus over us. Fair play. These are all players Arteta wanted. Now, if you want to talk about strikers specifically, he wanted Sesko in the summer. The mistake he made was he did not give Sesko, he did not tell Sesko what he wanted to hear. He told him things like, you know what? We're not 100% sure where we're going to play you. We might play you out left sometimes. You're going to have to earn your place. And the guy's like, you know what? For my own development, I'm going to stay. Overall, Arteta has never said he doesn't want a striker. The issue we found ourselves in, we probably had to sell one of what do you call it, Jesus or one of our forwards in order to fund bringing somebody else in going into the season. And maybe they thought they had enough going into the season because of what Havertz did on the back end of last year. But they have been looking for a forward. They have been looking for forward players. And the reason why we signed so many defenders and midfielders, did you see the state of our defensive midfield before? It was terrible. We needed that. And that's why we have a bedrock of a good team to be pushing for these league titles and challenging in the first place because of those signings. So his talent ID, I would say, is quite good compared to the misses where you see from other clubs across the board.
I hear that, guys. I want to go to this super chat before I talk about the Arsenal City. Before we talk about the Arsenal City game, a few comments.